Okay, so we're now on the air. So, yeah, this is kind of fun. It's actually, I think, I mean, first off, we're doing this hangout primarily as a charity thing. That there are some people who think that we're the same person, and so how often do you get to actually get additional evidence when someone's spinning the sort of conspiracy one theory? But anyway,
Yeah, so yeah, Dr. Jekyll, it's Mr. Hyde here. How's it going?
yeah, my alternate personality with my wig and voice changer.
Mm-hmm.
I really like that
Yeah.
idea.
Where's the wig, by the way?
I do not know. Although, of course, that's what I would say,
That's
isn't it?
yeah, that's true. That's true. It's
Yeah. No, I mean, I do find that accusation that we're the same person very interesting, just psychologically speaking, because it gives, I think, an insight into how some of these people who show up in the comment section and in Deconverted Man's, how they approach things like this, how they approach their skepticism, that for this.
well, it's a little bit baffling. I mean, it's something that we were discussing. Where's someone's mind where this is the first place they go to?
That is a
What's the
very
thought? What's the thought process there? I don't know. It's a little bit perplexing.
it's an interesting
Um,
question, especially if you consider that the like I mean it's the same sort of thing like with the plagiarism stuff. Like I don't understand why people would go and plagiarize when all you have to do is essentially throw quote marks around. Um, and there you go. You're not
well,
plagiarizing.
sure. I mean, that's you've left out something obvious. I mean, why not additional? But this is, I don't know. It's something almost different. As the mind goes, this is the first assumption that's made, rather than the far more sane one that
Yeah.
plaster, my mug all over YouTube for.
Yeah, well,
um
I mean, you're not a YouTuber. You're just doing this once, so
yeah,
why?
just once. So I mean, this is my second time,
Well, yeah,
in YouTube
technically,
land.
but like,
So
so why bring it? But also, just the odd thing, like from on my side, like, okay, I didn't respond for a year. I don't need to make an excuse. All I'd have to do is take like 3 seconds at the beginning of a video to say, well, this one's kind of overdue, but here we go.
yeah, well, the thing of it is that we both admittedly sort of forgot about this to a greater or lesser extent. You may be a little bit lesser because you're the one who actually felt an obligation to respond.
Yeah, I mean,
I
I didn't
just straight up
forget so
forgot
much.
until you reminded me.
Well,
Um,
yeah. I mean, since I basically uh um wait, so Eve's in the live chat, but I'm not seeing because Eve. Hold on, let me see if I can. I'm trying to figure out where my live chat is. Hold on, let's see here.
no
Um,
worries.
here, yeah, just yeah. I mean, I remembered because after all, I basically promised that I would respond, um, and yeah. So I mean, I remembered it was just since you weren't coming over for so long, is put off and put off, and finally. So it's not that I didn't forget. It was just all I could do was
I
be patient.
Yeah, I forgot. But
Here we go. Let me go.
to the point where I never actually watched the complete video until far later.
There's the live chat. Great. Great. Unfortunately, it's muted, so I'm not hearing myself twice. Okay.
This is a good thing.
Let's see here. Oh, you've just said that Deconverted Man's followers. Yeah. Okay. So, guys, in the comments, just for fun, could you mention, because I'm sure somebody will accuse me of having, recorded my friend's portion of this thing, and so
A lot of effort for some reason, but yeah.
yeah. Well, I mean, we're already at the lots of effort for no discernible reason. Because as I
Yeah,
said, I
sure.
could
Why
just
not take an extra step?
yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
I
Unfair enough. Yeah.
yeah. Given that I could just say, it's been a while, or just say nothing. Maybe stick something in the description, or not stick anything whatsoever anywhere. Um, let's see. Eve would like you to say Nietzsche's peachy.
Nietzsche is in fact quite peachy. Versagte tiefe Mitternacht, ich schlief, aus tiefem Traum bin ich erwacht. Die Welt ist tief und tiefer als das Tag gedacht. I used to know the entire thing. It's been a very, very long time since I memorized
What's that
the
from?
song. Also sprach Zarathustra. It's
Ah,
sort of after all of the higher men are assembled, right before Zarathustra sort of disbands his very bizarre set of sort of disciples. They have this final round song where all of it's pulled together. It's actually a very, very pretty poem.
mm.
Um,
Forgive the interruption, but
yeah, no,
Serial Face Monty would like you to say semiotics is the best branch of philosophy.
semiotics is the best branch of philosophy. Well, okay. I mean, I'll say it.
Also, Hassam asked if there'll be a documentary. I'm not intending for there to be one myself.
A documentary regarding what? I,
He didn't specify in the comments that I saw.
This entire gripping saga.
Possibly yes.
There probably won't be a documentary. I don't know. I mean, it could be fascinating. It could be fun. Maybe we should do a documentary. That's not a promise, though. That's not a promise because I don't want to find myself obligated into a documentary sometime down the line.
Yeah, I'm learning to be cautious about those sorts of promises myself.
Yeah.
Oh, apparently too. Where is it? Yeah, Eve asked, "Is that the Ass Festival?" And then Hassam asked, "Hold up, there's an Ass Fest." And then Eve mentioned from Zarathustra, there's an Ass Festival, and it's a donkey ass, not the other kind.
Yeah, no. Is that from the Ass Festival? Oh, let me think. For some reason, I don't recall that being the case. I mean, again, it's been a very, very long time since I read this. It's been what, a decade and a half? So
Yeah,
my
it's
memory is
about
a little
15
spotty.
years.
I've actually been meaning to go back to it at some point because I really did enjoy the book. But I can't recall. I can't recall.
Oh, Hassam said, by the way, it's a documentary about how I've managed to fool the world with my excellent timing on a live hangout.
This is something else. I mean, leaving that aside for a moment, just the acting ability that you apparently have. I mean,
Yeah.
voice changer notwithstanding. I mean, you changed the cadence, the mannerisms. Apparently, I smack my lips quite a bit, and I guess I do. Although, in all fairness, I was, my lips were dry. I had a cold at the time, but still have a cold. So, whereas apparently what was it that what was your characteristic little
I don't know.
what was it?
Someone accused me of panting, and I'd like to know what I do
Panting,
not
yes.
pant. I just breathe heavily.
Thank you. Yes, it was panting. Okay. You apparently pant, which I've never heard you do. I apparently smack my lips, which apparently I do. I mean, I actually worked up the courage to watch myself in that video. That was a tough one, but yeah, I guess I do, or at least I did in that video. So. But,
yeah. I do want to. I don't pant. I am large lunged, I should say, which is actually somewhat true. I do have a fairly high lung capacity. Now, and I don't want to get overly into the meta speculation about what, if anything, should Deconverted Man watch this video, he would make of it. Would he double down on the excellent timing of acting and so on, etc., or because there's that, and it's an interesting question in a broader sense. How much is a skeptic willing to invest into the ridiculous explanations and their skepticism in order to maintain it?
Well, he's already gone this far.
Oh, there's a question about what your there's a question about what your avatar is of.
Oh, it's a It's an image I stole off of, I believe, DeviantArt. It's a cesspit, but you find good things there eventually. Which avatar are they seeing?
Uh,
That's actually because we were kind of having a little bit of an issue with this because I changed it like moments
um,
before we started this.
yeah, yeah. You've correctly identified it as Raceland.
Oh, good for Eve, good for Eve. Yeah, no, it's recent material. It's a character from a series of fantasy novels that both Chris and I are familiar with. Grew
No,
up
he's an archmage, Monty. He said
uh,
a food zombie.
reading. Well, he kind of had a rough time. He
He
he had
did.
some zombie characteristics. He was ravaged and all the rest of that. Um,
Golden skin.
Golden
Yeah,
Skin. Oh,
I
the funny
can't
thing
think
is,
of
if you
it
actually
myself.
read like the very first, I mean, if you go back to the very first book in the series, he was supposed to be pale with sort of a golden tinge to his skin. It's kind of funny that all artists subsequently basically depict him as having
Been touched by Midas.
golden paint shellacked over his face, which it's not really, it wasn't supposed to be like that. But even the official artist did that, so it's understandable.
Yeah, well, especially in the original art, the printing on books isn't always all it could be, and so you want to make it a little bit more,
Right, right.
visible. There we go, visible.
Visible,
Um,
yes. They didn't really have the one for subtlety, or the license for subtlety there. But so it's sort of stuck. So you have the golden paint shellacked on the face, but the rest of it's pretty good. The white
yeah,
hair there. And
yeah. It was only later when he, well, depending on how you want to interpret it, I still like the idea that Fist and Dantalus won, but that Raceland was just so powerful that being absorbed by Fist and Dantalus, he just took over
well,
Fist and Dantalus.
who's really to say? Who's really to say?
Yeah, well, I mean that's they played it in such a way you could go either way, that or the flip side, Fist and Dantalus, like because he didn't really recognize his face afterwards and so on. So I personally like that interpretation.
Yeah, I think of it too, though, is that I mean the memories sort of became confused with each other. That was part of the problem as well. I can remember
Yeah,
right after this battle, he had memories that weren't his own. He wasn't really sure what was going on. So, and it was weird in the very final book that we shan't name.
yes, the one
There
that
was that
didn't happen.
weird little there was that weird little nod towards the fact that Raceland hadn't really done anything after that point at all, or he hadn't done anything after the test at all. It was Fist and Dantalus who had sort of driven him, toward the
Mm.
attempt to become a god. Which I mean, again, it happened. That nod was made in that book, so it can pretty much be discarded
Yes, it can.
outright. But
Anything
still,
in Dragons of Summer never actually happened.
yeah.
That was
Oh,
just a bad dream. Yeah, that book that never happened can be discarded. By the way, Monty earlier mentioned that allusion to the video proves nothing; it only proves itself. And I've got to say, I really, which is an allusion to, because I mentioned in my video that all of creation is proof for its, or is evidence for its
hmm?
creator, and not proof, but evidence for its creator. Because of course, a single thing can be evidence for several different, even contradictory things,
Sure,
and then
sure.
it requires proper interpretation. Um, and so Deconverted Man had said, I think in the comments that the world is only evidence for itself.
Hmm.
And I remember Monty particularly liked that one, just because it suggested the well, an interesting thing on logic generally, and my take on it is basically that you're not allowed to have an argument. You can only have your premises, and if your conclusion is not among your premises, you're just out of luck because you're not allowed to actually make an argument from premises. Is the basic principle
Hmm.
being proposed there? Um, not that he'd ever be consistent with that anywhere else, but I do like that style of logic. I don't know exactly what you'd call it, where your conclusion has to be among your premises or you don't get it.
Hmm. That's a
You
very good
know,
question. Not
null
sure what you
logic, I
call that.
suppose we could call it. You're not
Yeah,
permitted any arguments of any kind whatsoever.
Tarantella logic, where you just spin in circles. I mean, you can't really proceed from there, but you can certainly spin around. I mean, you're
It
going to be
might.
seeing different things on occasion in a cycle.
Monty suggested circular logic is the name.
No, yeah, no, that works. I do like the tarantella thing though. Um, it's because you get dizzy from the tarantella. You spin
Yeah.
around frequently enough, and well, the world becomes a little bit blurry.
Yeah, no, that's
Um,
true. That's true. I like that idea. The idea being paralitology. What's you've suggested paralitology? I'm not sure what paralitology
I've never heard of that
mean. Well, I mean,
term
I'm pretty
myself.
sure she's putting together two Greek words. She does that a lot.
Oh, really? Well, I
Yeah.
don't. Could she explain?
See, this is, incidentally, hopefully she will. This is, however, the peril of not speaking Greek, or for the rest of us, or in some sense, the peril of speaking Greek for her is that she often does do things like put together, paralytic logic. Um,
Oh, okay. No, that's fine. That's fine. I still do the idea of the tarantella because the illusion of motion.
mm,
It provides the illusion that, you're actually accomplishing something. Now, granted, after spinning once around, you're going to see the exact same things again, and second time around, once again. But you feel like you're making progress.
yeah,
You
no,
feel
I
like you're
really,
accomplishing something.
I
I'm going to
especially
fight for
actually
this
like,
one. This.
I do actually really like, incidentally, the idea that the whole point is to spin until you're so, until you're incredibly dizzy, that you're not getting anywhere, but you are producing an effect nonetheless. Um,
Right.
but by the way, I just want to take a moment to point out because is that Matoma or Mathema? I'm guessing that's Mathema. And perhaps you can give me his pronunciation. Um, but he said, "Where's your wig?" And I just like to point out, of course, that it is an article of dogmatic faith that you cannot prove a negative. So I can't prove that I don't have the wig, obviously.
Yeah, the
Um,
the wig could be, you know, safely hiding somewhere.
yeah.
I mean,
Well,
he could have burned the wig, you know,
well.
after the original after the original deception, just to ensure that, private investigators couldn't, somehow ferret out this wig and have a video where Deconverted Man is holding it up and, telling, his adoring fans, "See, I told you. I found the wig." Now, we could also have a video somewhere down the line where he buys a wig and holds it up
I
and,
really need to do that.
claims that this is proof.
I need to do that.
I mean, maybe. Why not?
I mean, the funny thing is, now granted, I don't expect Deconverted Man to know my sense of humor, because I really presume he doesn't watch any of my videos. But if I were going to
Mm.
do a sock puppet, I would like get cut out like a piece of paper with like a elastic strap, so it was like this
Right.
big and the beard was clearly obvious and so on. Like if I didn't do a straight up sock
Right,
puppet
right, a
with the
straight up,
sock,
sock puppet.
um, if I
Or
was
you could
going to
just,
pretend
you
to,
could write sock puppet on the mask itself, and
well,
black
yeah,
Sharpie.
uh, that's how
That
I
would be
would
good.
do it if I were going to invent somebody. Um,
But of course, he didn't. His assumption that was not that this was, a bit of humor on your part or something like that. This, had far more not nefarious purposes behind it, but you were protecting yourself. This is an
yeah.
attempt to save face somehow. And again, I find it bizarre because you responded to his video.
Well,
It's not as if you gave my little blurb there and it said shrugged your shoulders afterwards and said, "Well, there you go,
no,
opting out."
that's true. I
Um,
mean, that said, I didn't respond point by point. As what we mentioned talking about this in
well,
private
sure,
before.
you didn't respond point by point, but this would have been
Well,
an
yeah, it would have been a
epic.
4 hour video. Point by point. I mean, how didn't we go like 5 hours when we were just previewing it together?
We spent quite a while
I
previewing
want
it.
to say it was something like five. It was close because I want to say like like it was around. I think we did get to the end, but I want to say like that was close to when my oldest son was coming home from school at that point.
And we
Um,
started fairly early too. I mean, there were a lot of pauses. There were a
well,
lot of pauses
yes,
for conversations in between. Yeah.
yeah, there were, and I'm pretty sure we ate lunch, but
Yeah, I
yeah.
think we had lunch between them. Yeah.
So I mean, it would have been a very very long video had I Um, well, with the whole, had I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter thing. If I had put weeks and weeks into it, and I'm guessing this is the point where Deconverted Man would say I took a year, so I, could spend a few extra weeks on
Sure.
it or something. But like that was a year where I wasn't putting
It
time
certainly
into it.
warranted that. Certainly warranted,
Yeah,
half a month
yeah,
of hard work.
yeah.
Um,
But not to get bogged down in that.
sure, sure.
Actually, the yeah. Okay. Nothing desperately to say um, in the comments. The Yeah, it was a yeah. The whole thing has been an interesting experience, but especially that the I'm still trying to figure out. Like one guy, interestingly, said something about like I did all this to get out of debating Deconverted Man.
Yeah, that's again, it's one of the reasons why when you mentioned just a bit earlier that he doesn't watch your videos. I mean, save for the ones concerning him, I mean, that's obviously the case. I mean, you've made videos discussing why debate for the sake of debate isn't really something that interests you. I mean, I think you've touched upon the point more than once.
Yeah, no,
Um,
I did. Oddly, one of my more popular videos, which I really that one really took me by surprise. I have because I made it, why I don't debate. I didn't think that would be a topic of general interest.
well, I mean,
And it
again,
turned out to be.
considering some of the people who come to the site, whether they be friendly or antagonistic, debate plays a very large role in the atheist YouTube community.
It seems to. It really seems to. And
And
it's
so, having, a YouTuber who approaches things from a Christian perspective sort of swear off debate for the sake of debate would seem very strange. It would seem very odd. And so
mm,
I wouldn't, it wouldn't surprise me that people would be curious to see why that's the case because it's something new.
eh,
I mean, when it
it's
comes to these sorts of conversations, debate is the coin of the realm. I mean, that's all important.
yeah,
It's
I
yeah,
mean,
but
granted, in private we've talked about why, but the
yeah,
yeah, I don't all the same. Yeah, I still want to know. Just bring it back to the point we were on just a minute ago.
yeah.
I still want to know who it was who would make me do this debate that I had to justify not debating to in order to, escape with my life to
Right,
continue
right.
not debating.
Through this bizarre you know, conspiracy, this but again, it really is assumed that you have almost a moral obligation to engage in debate for its own sake. And the idea that someone would be opting out of it because they don't find that sort of it's not even really a conversation. They don't find that sort of interaction worthwhile. It's a very alien thing.
Hmm.
It's something that is very hard to grasp for people who are so deeply involved in conversations that take that form. And that's the form they typically take and have typically taken online.
No, you're right. You're right. By the way, Eve mentioned you have the burden of debate, Chris. Accept it.
Yeah, that's the
Well,
thing. You
actually, she
have the
accidentally typed a T in there, but the yeah
excuse me.
yeah I like the burden of debate, just like the burden of proof that you're required. Yeah. Oh, I don't want to get into the burden of proof.
Well,
I mean,
then
it's all
that's
tied together for online atheists, though. I mean, the whole lack of belief, the burden of proof, the need to debate, these form this odd sort of cohesive unity for them.
well,
Um,
it's the whole burden of proof thing. And again, it's something that you mentioned in your response video, and it was one of the points that we had discussed was that it's the element of spoon feeding.
mm,
It's the sort of I'm not going to take an active stance. I'm not going to say anything positive. I'm not going to make any positive assertions. I am going to stand back and I'm going to try and counter every point that you make.
yeah, through the invincible defeater of I don't believe that. or I don't
Right.
accept that, or what if it's
Sure.
not true? Um,
Which I mean,
I gotta
there
say,
you
I
go, a
really love.
game
I
over.
remember. Yeah, I mean, it's not the first time this is observed. I remember Eve tweeted something about the basic, basic atheist program of like 10. Where's your evidence? 20. That's not evidence. 30. Go to 10. For those who remember basic in back in pre-high school, but the
But yeah, no, go ahead.
well the thing though in that thing, I just wanted to mention the thing that you had said. This is going back a long ways, but I remember when somebody was I mentioned to you, someone in the comment, talking about how you can still have a debate without a position, because the one person can present their position, the other person can critique this position.
Right.
And I remember your response. Do you remember the response to that I'm alluding to by any chance? The one about you're in the audience.
Vaguely.
I happen to really remember the way you put it, that if you don't have a position, you are by definition in the audience.
Oh,
Sit
yes,
down,
yes,
shut
yes,
up, and
yes,
maybe you
yes,
can
yes,
learn
yes.
something.
Right.
Yeah, actually,
It's
Mathema, pardon me if that's not how you pronounce it, was mentioned the other person can heckle. That's actually what I had said at the time. That when you
right. No,
describe
yeah, it's
heckling,
it's more or less just precisely that. It's heckling, which I guess is fun for the parties involved. Well,
yeah,
one of the parties involved. Anyway.
yeah. Well, it's something we actually, well, again, discussed at the time. Um, there's a lot of stuff we discussed, but that what they want to be is Statler and Waldorf from the Muppet Show. That
Yes.
they want the Christian to
Yes.
be Fozzie Bear on stage, and they want to be Statler and Waldorf in the wings heckling. And of course, the way that mostly works is because Statler and Waldorf were written by the same people who wrote Fozzie Bear, so there was
Right.
actually the same
Right.
level of creativity behind the two. Yeah. Someone pointing out, if you said something that was incorrect, would you want to know? Well, yes, but on the other hand, there's nothing in the debate format which is helpful at all for having, for points corrected. There's absolutely, and this is one of the big things when it comes to this, I don't see the purpose of debate, especially because we have these things, as one person I remember put it, these compact data repositories called books. And I see no reason. We also these days have blog posts and other things. I see no reason whatsoever, given modern technology, why debate should in any way be a preferable format, with the exceptions I'd mentioned in my video about it. But
Sure.
I will develop my ideas and lay them out logically and coherently. People can examine that at their leisure, and then make a response telling me what's wrong with that if there is something wrong with that. This is a fairly traditional way of discussing ideas, and seeing an entire person's argument can actually clarify certain points that in the middle of it you can't see. So the debate format adds very, very little. And it's also interestingly a
Well,
question
and
I've
that's.
asked. Oh, good.
I don't know. Go. I'm sorry. Go
Oh, I
ahead.
was just going to add, it's also a question I've asked atheists from time to time. Why would arguing with you be more educational to me than spending that time reading Nietzsche? I haven't gotten a response yet.
And it's curious. I mean, the whole debate format, need for it, strikes me as very, very odd. Why not a conversation? Why does it have to be so bizarrely structured? Again, not to tread old ground, but going back to Deconverted Man's debate challenge, these are very specific questions.
Mm.
The commenters, sort of pointed out or hinted at, this was something that he had constructed because he had arguments.
Yeah,
Into
he's
this,
constructed it around his arguments.
right, around his
Specifically.
arguments. Why? Obviously, the suggestion is, and he sort of, from what I recall, coyly hinted at the fact that that's more or less what he was doing. Into this
Yeah. No, he did. I
trying
mean, I think
to
his exact words were something like, "Nah, I'm not that clever." I mean, he made the sarcasm very
sure,
obvious.
sure. I mean, it was obvious. Um, Open to instruction, because I mean, in all fairness, he's assuming that you're not. And again, that's the problem with the debate format. There's no actual conversation. No one's actually going to be corrected because no one's receptive,
Yeah, well,
which is why there's no use to that. It's you're going to argue your side to the best of your ability. Well, you lose the game. Nothing's actually gained. Nothing's actually learned. So,
yeah,
how is this the best to uncover truth and all
yeah.
the rest of it?
That's the thing. Because I mean, one thing I mentioned too in several videos about why I don't do this stuff is part of it is that I've done a heck of a lot of it, and the reason I will answer people's questions. I am open to conversations. But the thing is, because basically the thing always ends up at, I'm not willing to trust reason if it goes to some particular conclusion, or, I'm not willing to,
Mm-hmm.
trust some argument or what have you. When you because it always hits some fundamental disagreement fairly quickly, and the more
Well,
experience you
yes.
have with these things, the faster you get straight to the fundamental disagreement. Um, so you
Well, I
get
mean, the thing
something.
of it is too is that I mean, the fundamental disagreement is basically there from the outset.
Yeah, and not far away if you know how to get to it. So you then hit the fundamental disagreement, at which point in a debate you would have to then try to argue about this extremely fundamental thing that you're never going to talk somebody into or out of. I mean, there's no words you're going to say to a person that is going to make them start to believe in the efficacy of reason to get a truth, as opposed to a mental model that you construct and then check against the world that you know is wrong and will never
Mhm.
be correct and is just purely a creation inside your head. You can't reason somebody out of that. There's no words you can say that, like, well, no, but reason can actually no, and because I mean, if they understand all knowledge to be that mental model, anything you can say to them exists only within this mental model that they construct, and consequently it can't break out of that mental model. So you're not going to, you can't argue them out of it. And so in a conversation, you can say, okay.
Hmm. Have you ever seen an example, a debate, in which something other than playing a game was actually play, where one side was actually convinced of the other side's position?
Well, I mean, in general, everyone will say that debates aren't really for convincing the other debater, but for the audience. Even there, I mean, certainly I've never heard of a debate in which somebody actually said at the end of it, you know what, I was wrong. Um,
Well, right. So let's assume that it's for the audience. I think there are actually debates. I mean, people go into these. People, even the spectators, come to these debates. They have their side.
no, that's
How
common. I will
often do
say,
you?
I mean, I actually did see an interesting debate, and this accords with what I said in my video about debates, about where a debate might actually be
Hmm?
useful. It was very interestingly between David Wood and Richard Spencer on the topic of uh, Robert Spencer, rather. Um, I think that's his name.
Uh,
On the topic of, did Muhammad exist? Now,
hmm.
interestingly, I mean, part of what makes this interesting is the two of them had been against two other people
That's
in a
right. Yeah.
previous debate,
Right.
and they'd been on the same side. Here, they split apart, and David Wood took the Muhammad did exist side, where Spencer was defending the Muhammad didn't exist side. That was actually a very interesting debate because the two men had enough in common that they were able to actually, interact in some, in some real way rather than just,
Right. I mean, you
being
you had
fundamental
mentioned
disagreement.
that they had argued on the same side
Originally, yes,
previously.
yeah.
Yeah.
David Wood. I think I kind of am guessing it's something about the debate format in 2 verse 2 that David Wood filled in or something. I didn't look it up. I don't know the actual backstory. But Wood's position is that he prefaced it by saying that if you had asked him prior to Spencer's book, he would say he was 99.9% sure that Muhammad existed. After Spencer's book, he'd say he's about 95% sure that Muhammad existed.
Well,
so he was taking the Muhammad existed side because that is still what he thinks the overwhelmingly good bet.
but
I mean, I don't want to get too much into the specifics, just the nature of the debate.
sure. Well,
proved...
again, it's something of a unique debate, though, because these are people who have the same side previously when it comes to this discussion. It seems, I mean, insofar as the way you describe it, this is an actual conversation.
By the way, I apologize to cut things short, but I heard the garage door, which means my family's coming home, so I need to stop recording now.
I understand.
So thanks for joining me. It was a great conversation. Thank you to everyone in the comments. And
thank you, everyone.
Until next time.
Good evening, Dr. Jekyll, and Mr. Hyde will speak to you later.
God bless.